everyone, I'm Francesca. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a really delicious recipe for you guys for homemade vegan wonton soup. But before we get into that, I have a really exciting announcement because my cookbook, Plantifully, is now out for pre-order. I am so excited. If you want to pre-order a copy, I will have the links in the description box and I'll also put it in a pinned comment down below. And it has over 75 recipes in there. They are so delicious. I worked so hard on this cookbook and I'm really excited to share it with you. So if you want to pre-order a copy, just click that link down below and then next year when it comes out on January 12th, you will get your copy. So yeah, I'm very excited to share the cookbook with you guys and I cannot wait till it can get into our hands. Anyway, today's recipe is so delicious, perfect for fall, winter, these colder months coming up. Like with any homemade dumpling or pasta or ravioli or whatever, it is a bit time consuming, but you can make a big batch of them, freeze them, and then you just have them in your freezer hanging out for whenever you want to eat them. They are so delicious and they are a little bit quicker to make than dumplings. So I think it's fun and you can get your kids involved, get your family involved. Like always, the full ingredients and recipes are down below in the description box. You can find links to my blog with PDF printable recipes and everything. So be sure to check that out, and ingredients are written out in the description box as well. With all that being said, let's get into the video. Let's start this off by making our dough. So I'm taking 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of salt, and 3/4 cup of warm water, and I'm putting this into a blender. You can do this in a food processor, you can do this with a stand mixer, anything that you can use to make dough, or of course you can do it by hand as well, whatever you feel like doing. So I'm just gonna let this go until we get this kind of nice dough ball, and then I'm just gonna knead it for about a minute or two just to make it into a nice smooth disc. I'm eventually going to form it into a disc. We'll get there in a second. Of course, you can do this by hand, and if you can find store-bought wonton wrappers, that would be great as well. You can find them in some food stores and Asian markets. So I'm fashioning it into the disc, and now I'm going to put it onto a plate, and we're going to cover it with a clean kitchen towel and set that aside for 20 to 30 minutes. In the meantime, we're gonna work on our filling. This is textured vegetable protein. It is dehydrated soy bits. It works really great as like a ground meat replacement. So we're gonna rehydrate this with water. We have 3/4 cups of the textured vegetable protein and 3/4 cup of water. And we're just gonna set this aside for 10 minutes, just let that rehydrate itself. Once it's rehydrated, we're gonna add all the ingredients for the filling into a food processor or blender. So I'm taking some low sodium soy sauce, some sesame oil. I have this cabbage blend that I get from Trader Joe's, the hydrated textured vegetable protein, 2 green onions that I just kind of roughly chopped up, and some garlic and ginger powder. And then we're just gonna pulse that until it's broken down and it'll look something like this. It should kind of be this like crumbly filling, and this will be great for sticking inside the wonton wrappers. So when I press on the dough, you can see my fingers leave a dent and doesn't bounce back too much. So we are good to go with working on the dough. I always like to work in things in halves, just makes everything easier. So I'm separating the halves. Then we are going to lightly flour our surface and going to start to roll this out. If you have a pasta machine, you can also make the dough rolled out that way as well. So I'm just going to do this by hand though with my rolling pin. It takes a few minutes and eventually you get it into this really thin dough, and you want it to be as thin as possible. And I'm just doing my best to kind of form it into a large rectangle square. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to take a really sharp knife or a pizza cutter, and we're just going to clean up this rectangle. So as you can see, I'm just defining all these edges. Unfortunately, you can't really use these scraps for anything, so just try to be, you know, as careful as you can and leave as much as you can when cutting. So then I'm going to cut the rectangle into 4 columns first. So I just measured that out. I measured the whole rectangle and then I just divided that by 4. So it was about 3.5 inches per column. So I'm just going to take my knife and cut like that with all of them. And you don't have to measure if you don't want to. It can help make it a little more precise. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to divide those into 3 rows. So I just measured the bottom and divided that by 3. And we're just going to cut it out, eventually making as close as we can get to square wrappers. So I'm just cutting them all out and they look something like this. Then you're going to dust them lightly with cornstarch, and this will just help them not to stick to one another. And you can just place them all on a plate like this, and they'll look something like this when they're all done. You can put these in the fridge now if you'd want, if you wanted to wait and make these for another time, but we're going to move on. So I repeated with my other dough half, and now we're going to make our little wontons. So I'm taking about half of a heaping teaspoon of the filling to 1 teaspoon, just depending on how big the wrapper is. Placing that on the bottom. We're gonna lightly line the top with water, and then we're gonna fold it over so we get a nice little rectangle now, like this kind of tiny rectangle, and you're just gonna use your fingers to really push everything down and make sure it's sealed. And then it's easier just to watch this. Just fold the 2 bottoms over, put a little dab of water, and this is an easy way to make a little wonton wrapper. It looks so cute. I found this way of doing it in another girl's video, so I will link that down below. You can of course do it a more traditional way, and I'll have videos linked for the more traditional pleating down below, but these were really cute and I find it to be more forgiving. So this is how our dumplings turned out, and they look really cute. This is a more traditional way of folding the wontons, so whatever you like to do. I don't really think it ultimately matters because you're just eating this for yourself and you're enjoying it at home. But they look really cute, and I actually really like this shape. So you'll have some leftover filling. You can just save that for more dumplings or eat it with rice. It's still delicious. Then I have 2 cups of the Trader Joe's miso ginger broth, and I'm gonna put in a handful of spinach. And then I'm just gonna put my little wontons in there. I'm only gonna make 8 at a time because I'm not gonna eat 24 wontons in one sitting. So I'm just making 8 of them. You're gonna let this boil for 10 minutes. That's it, all done. How good does this look? I love the steam coming off. I topped it with the Trader Joe's chili onion crunch, some black and white sesame seeds, and green onion, and that's all you have to do. To freeze them, all I did was put them on a lime baking sheet for an hour, let them freeze, and then you can pop them into a container. And now, of course, we have to take a bite of our delicious soup, and that inside is just so good, and the textured vegetable protein works really well in here. I think you guys are really going to like this. It definitely reminded me of the wonton soup I used to eat from takeout. Alright guys, that was our recipe. I really hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you like my videos, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Helps the channel out, helps us to grow and spread more vegan recipes. Like I said earlier, you can find the full written out recipe on my blog, and all the ingredients are written out in the description box as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you try this out, please be sure to tag me on Instagram and use #plantifullybased so I can see your beautiful creations, and I'll see you next week. Bye!